My name is Stephanie Dubit, and we are gathered at the Williamsfield, Illinois American Legion on January 12, 2025, to interview Jim Ralston as part of a Vietnam Veterans Video Project. It is my honor to represent the Spoon River chapter of the Illinois DAR today. The Vietnam Veteran Video Project is an ongoing initiative to honor local Vietnam veterans, remember their sacrifices and those of their families through the video interviews. Welcome, Jim. Thank you for agreeing to share your memories and stories with me and hopefully with audiences for generations to come. I first want to ask some military service details just to get oriented with the time, place, and your military role during Vietnam. Can you tell us what branch of service you enlisted in?
United States Navy.
And what was your ship name?
The USS Everett F. Larson, DD-830, which was a destroyer.
And what was your highest rank?
E4, Radioman 3rd Class.
And at the time that you enlisted, I know you were very young. Were you in any relationship or married at that time?
No, I wasn't.
You were just a boy?
I just graduated out of high school.
Okay.
I wasn't going to go to college. I was going to be a farmer, and I knew I was going to get drafted. So I decided that I wanted to enlist in the Navy for 4 years. I knew I would be guaranteed a warm bed every night and 3 meals a day.
Did anyone educate you when you were hearing rumors of the draft? Was there someone that you could talk to help guide you in the right direction as far as which branch that you wanted to, that you felt was best for you?
Not really. I knew that since I wasn't going to go to college, that I would be number one on the draft list, and so I knew that immediately out of high school that I'd be drafted, I would be going straight to Vietnam. So I elected to go into the Navy because I was around water a lot. I love swimming, I love boats, and I just, that was the branch I wanted to go into.
Did it didn't deter your decision at all, knowing that it would be a 4-year commitment?
No, I sacrificed the 4 years rather than go in enlisting for 2.
Okay.
Because of the draft.
Okay. What were your locations for your assignments?
I started out going to boot camp in San Diego, and then I stayed there and went to the Radioman A school. I believe I was there for approximately 9 months, and then my first duty station was Guam for a year and a half in the communication station.
A year and a half.
A year and a half. After I left there, they reduced that period of time to only 12 months instead of 18.
After you finished.
After I left.
During your service time, you received medals and special service awards. If you can remember all of them, can you list as many as you're interested in listing?
Well, I did receive the Combat Medal, the Good Conduct Medal for 4 years of service, the National Defense Medal, the Vietnam Campaign Medal, and the Vietnam Service Medal.
And there's
probably... And then there was also the National Defense Medal.
And is there an NCS station for outstanding performance?
That was what they call a meritorious unit citation that I received while on Guam for the aiding in the communications between Vietnam and the United States. And I also received a second meritorious unit citation, and the ship and its crew received that from hostile gunfire that we encountered while in Vietnam.
Okay. Would you be able to choose a medal or award that you feel most proud of, or do you feel equally proud of all of them?
The last one I mentioned, the meritorious unit citation, when we was in Vietnam aboard the Larson, is the one that I keep remembering all the time. It's special to me.
Can you expand upon why it's special? Why it's most special?
I think it's because of the conditions that we were in at the time. We were supporting the troops in Vietnam, and they requested to have gunfire 13 and a half miles inland, and we could shoot 14 miles, so that meant we had to sit a half mile offshore to support as far in as they needed. Mm-hmm. And while we were doing the shooting, we received, I don't want to say received, we counted 80 rounds of hostile bombardment all around our ship, and we never got hit. And somebody was looking out for us, because that's just unbelievable.
Were there people on your ship? I mean, were there individuals were there casualties on your ship that day? No casualties. No casualties. With 80 rounds that you mentioned. The
closest one that went off was 3 feet from the ship.
Wow.
What scared me most about that was that I was a radioman, and my compartment that I worked out of was towards the top of the ship.
Right.
And of course, knowing that they're lobbing these shells towards us, obviously the first place they're going to hit is at the top of the ship.
You were the most vulnerable position, yes. Probably.
So I can remember distinctly standing there and thinking, gee, I'm just a little farm boy from a town of about 800 people, and here I am standing right here where I'm at, and knowing that the enemy is throwing fire at us, and am I going to make it back home?
Right.
And
I mean, just for us to empathize a little deeper with your story, how many hours or minutes did you experience this battle? I mean, does this go on for 2 hours, or how long were you in that vulnerable position?
This is what's remarkable about the whole situation is when we started to come in and we turned sideways and we did what we're supposed to do and got out, took 20 minutes. And we shot hundreds and hundreds of rounds.
So 20 minutes of pure adrenaline, I'm sure, and then you just retreat. You just moved away.
Well, you call it retreat. I said, let's get out of here as fast as we can,
right?
and which we did.
And after a soldier or a naval officer experiences something like that, and once it's over with, do you take time to decompress or talk with your?
No, you just go about your own business.
You just continue with your day.
I mean, obviously you talk about it,
right.
How scary a situation that you were put in. Everybody's put in, but you go about your business. You got a duty to do, and you do it.
And then do you feel like as the decades pass after that experience, how often would you say you think of that day?
Probably almost every day, because where I have all my medals and my citations are in my computer room, and I go to it every day, and I'll look at it, and a lot of times I'll reread the citations.
Jim, where did you grow up, and how would you describe life before your service in the Navy began?
Well, I was born in a little community, Yates City, and like I said, there's only about 800 people there. I grew up on a farm, went to school at Yates City, played baseball and basketball, and tried my luck in track. Yeah. I was in the FFA for all 4 years and held an office, was president my last year.
I didn't know that.
That was about the only group that I was actually involved in. Mm-hmm. So, and like I said, living on a farm, I was going to be a farmer, and I didn't.
You changed your plans.
So after I got out of the service, I ended up working for a seed company for about a year, and then I got a job at the local coal mine and worked there for almost 25 years. When we got laid off there, I worked for Caterpillar at the proving grounds in testing and development of their heavy equipment as an operator.
So some of your positions after the Navy were related to agriculture, somewhat.
Yes, kind of in a way, but a lot of people would say that I was tearing up the ground for agriculture, but we always replaced it, and you can get just as good crops off of it today as you did before it was ever disturbed. But that's neither here nor there.
Were there other people in your family that were veterans that had joined the service and knew what you were about to sign up for?
I had an uncle that was in World War II as a lieutenant, and he had received the Purple Heart for getting shot, and had a cousin that was a pilot, I believe, on a B-52 bomber, and his son was about 5 years older than me, and he was in the Air Force during the Vietnam War, but he was stationed in Turkey.
Okay.
So I just kind of wanted to carry on the torch that, they defended our country. I wanted to defend it, and I had 3 boys. The second set was twins, and they both went into the Army National Guard and served at the same time in Afghanistan for a year.
Were they able to stay together in Afghanistan?
They weren't on the same base. They were approximately 100 miles apart, but they never got the chance to see each other.
Okay. Do you remember how you felt about the rumors and the threat of the draft coming, as a teenager, knowing that we were involved in Vietnam, and I'm sure there was a progression of time that gave you some warning or notice that this was coming?
Well, I was going through school when it started. I didn't really get involved in what's going on, why is it going on. I just knew that when I became a senior, that, okay, you've got a choice to make here. And like I said, I wanted to proudly serve my country, and I joined the Navy.
Do you have very many memories of your enlistment? What was boot camp like? What was the getting enlisted process like for you?
Well, there again, being a young farm boy from a small town, and the first thing they did was send you to Chicago. And I won't get into specifics, but that was an experience.
Going to Chicago.
But what amazed me more than anything is being young and be able to navigate through the world by yourself. And I look at it today as, how did I do that? Because I look at the young kids today, and they have no problem going from point A to point B. It just, they get in their cars and they go. And, sometimes I wonder, well, I would have trouble doing that today. But how did I do that 50-some years ago?
Yep.
So, but we made it.
Well, I mean, it's still mind-boggling how an 18 or 19-year-old can even manage the stress of the changes that you had to endure, just making decisions to sign up and enlist, knowing that you have to leave for boot camp. Boot camp in itself, I would think, is an experience that sometimes is glossed over, but what were your impressions of boot camp?
If you went along and did what you were supposed to be doing, it wasn't all that bad. But if you tried to buck the system, then it was pretty rough. And I've seen some kids from New York that thought they could buck the system. And put it bluntly, life was hell for them. So,
for people who tried to buck the system, did the military or the Navy correct their thinking eventually? I mean, did they eventually become successful in boot camp?
Obviously, after boot camp, people, you go your designated ways, so there was no way of keeping track of
But they were able to finish boot camp and
Oh
complete.
yeah.
Okay.
You finish.
Okay.
They don't say, well, okay, you can go back home. I mean,
Right.
that doesn't happen.
Okay.
So.
What was your training like after boot camp? What did you think of it?
Well, I was disappointed because my recruiter had told me that I would be joining the Seabees, which is a construction outfit. So
Okay.
I would be running heavy equipment.
And you were happy with that?
Oh, I was real happy with that.
Okay.
But obviously, when I got to boot camp and they give me tests and this and that and the other, well, you're not going to be a CB, you're going to be a radioman. So they sent me to school for, I don't know, I suppose 16 weeks to learn Morse code and be able to type and
Did you know how to type before going?
oh yes, I had typing in high school, so I suppose that was one of the things that stood out when they gave me a
Yep.
test that he's a good typer, so this would be this would be a good position.
And what was training to be a radioman like? Was it interesting at all? Was it fun on some level, or was it just an obligation and you were getting through?
I can't say it was fun, but it wasn't boring. I mean, you was going to school to learn
Yeah.
what your job was going to be, and like I said, I was disappointed. I did learn what I had to learn, but I was disappointed that I didn't get into the job that I was really wanting to get into.
In the end, when all was said and done, do you feel glad that they placed you in the radioman role? Or would you still like, if you could have gone back, it would have been nice to have your preference?
Well, when I went to Guam, the classification I worked in was what they called the wire gang. So I wasn't really working with Morse code and I wasn't typing. My job was to hook up typewriters that would be receiving messages from, say, Okinawa or from Vietnam or the Philippines. And then we would send those messages on to Hawaii. And then they would send them messages from there on to the United States.
So it was a very important job, really.
Well, I received a meritorious unit citation for the support we gave in Vietnam for getting messages in and out.
It makes all the difference. Communication, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Where would we be without it? Where
You
would
had
you
to
be
have
without it?
communications.
Yes. For your service time, when did you ship? When did you actually ship overseas, and how did you learn of your orders, like the specifics?
Well, out of the 48 months that I spent in the Navy, I spent 39 of those overseas.
Okay.
Is what they call overseas, and that's being on the ship and going to Vietnam, being on Guam, that's overseas.
Okay.
So I didn't spend too much time in the United States.
Do you remember, do you have very vivid or maybe more vague memories of the first day that you shipped out, that you were on your ship for the first day,
yeah,
you were getting oriented?
I can remember that very, very well. I spent time home after Guam for Christmas and got aboard the ship on the 27th of December, and we shipped out on the 5th of January for Vietnam. And it took 5 days to get from Long Beach to Hawaii, and I was sick for 4.
Because you were adjusting to the water?
Just the motion of the ship. Obviously you weren't used to it.
No.
And that's a bad feeling. If you've drank hot tea and crackers for breakfast and lunch and supper
For days.
that gets old.
I think in the past when I've talked with you, I asked you how you mentally survive 4 days of feeling sick, knowing you have to live on the water for however many more months or years.
Well, you knew you was going to take another 3 weeks to get to, well, actually, he was going to be on the ship for a long time, so let's get over this.
Right.
But the funny thing, we was in storms, bad storms, after I had initially gotten sick. and it never bothered me a bit.
So you adjusted. Once you adjust, you've adjusted.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask about if you had a most memorable story from service, and I think you touched on that already when we talked about the medal that you were most proud of. Did you want to say anything more about the story?
I don't know if I want to say it's something that I remember a lot of, but I can remember going between Hawaii and Vietnam, and you get to an area where communications basically is dead, and you're all the time you're trying to dial in a frequency to where you can receive and send messages, and there's places out there that just isn't no signal, and that's frustrating because here you have a senior officer telling you, well, you got to find something. Well,
And you can't.
It ain't there,
How long would those dead zones where there was no...
It could last 2 or 3 days.
And again, you're very vulnerable at those times too, as well. Or do you not feel unsafe?
You have other ways of communicating
Okay.
with other ships. So, I mean, you're not out there in the middle of the ocean all by yourself, and nobody knows where you're at or what you're doing. I mean,
so you have some support if you need it.
well, you have to remember when you're going from the States. When we went from the States to Vietnam, we were in what they call a flotilla, which is 17 ships sailed together. There was aircraft carriers, and there were destroyers, and just frigates.
So even when you are in these dead spots where you didn't have any radio service, you were still in this community of...
Oh yeah, I mean everybody. You sailed together. I mean, you didn't wander off, go sightseeing somewhere.
I'm glad you explained that, because for people who haven't experienced it, we forget that you're with...
Well, you have to remember we have
group of
signalmen on board too, and they're the guys. If you happen to notice a ship and you see a light flashing and going, then that's Morse code with a light.
Okay.
And they can communicate to ships also. So,
stemming from the story that you told when you were providing land support, I wondered if experiencing a near-death experience like that changes you as you move forward in life.
I don't think that it had an effect on me later in life. Well, I know it didn't.
It's not something
but it was something at exactly that time.
Yeah.
That you're pretty nervous. So,
or shaken up, I would think.
They tell you get your helmet on and get a flak jacket on and get a life preserver on, and this is serious stuff they're talking about. So. But you can read from my citation that I have that what we was accomplished that day.
That day. What would be your best and your worst memory from your military life, if you could choose? Have you ever...
Well, I guess maybe some of the best things that ever happened was I was on the West Coast the whole time, and I made 2 tours to Vietnam, and each tour was different. The first tour was kind of laid back and not anything to worry about. We fired our guns a lot. I don't know, thousands of shells. But the best thing is we got to see a lot of the world.
Yeah.
I spent 3 weeks in Hong Kong. I spent 5 days in Singapore. And of course, we spent time in Taiwan. We spent time in the Subic Bay, the Philippines. So, a lot of those places you'd never see them after you got out. So it was kind of special to see how the other world lives.
were you experiencing those places with people that you cared about, with friends at
Well,
the time?
yeah, you never went by yourself. I had a real good friend, and this is what's ironic. The ship I was on had 250 guys on it, which is very small. I became real good friends with a guy that was from Peoria. And he had another guy that worked with him that was from Abington. Now you have three guys on the same ship within 60 miles apart. And the guy from Peoria and I became very good friends. He has since passed. But we did a lot of things together when we hit shore.
Which had to be comforting on some level.
Oh, it was really great because he had been to my hometown several times with his dad, and he knew a lot of the people that I knew, you know, so it was kind of neat.
And to be able to come back, and if you do need to talk about, you know, or reminisce a little bit about what you just returned from, it would be nice to have someone who understands exactly what you saw, where you were, you know, he could relate to you directly.
He could, yes. And the other guy, I tried to I did get a hold of him once, and he wasn't, his job, he couldn't talk to me. Yeah. And he said, I'll get in trouble. And so I haven't seen him since that day that probably would have been 40 years ago.
Do you have any, or a favorite keepsake
Favorite what?
Like a keepsake, a favorite token or a favorite piece of memorabilia from Vietnam?
Not really. Everything that I had brought home from the service, I had in my basement, and it flooded and ruined everything, pictures, uniforms, so.
What have you already discussed this, or would you say that you had a worse day in those 4 years that you served?
Well, I would obviously the day that we were under hostile fire would have been probably the worst day. The second worst day would be out in the middle of the ocean and not being able to get any communications at all. That was frustrating.
So you've described 2 very memorable days already. How did you learn that you were going to be released from the service?
That was funny. We was in Vietnam, and I needed some dental work done, so I put a request into the captain of the ship to get off the ship early so I could get back to the States and have the dental work done. And it happened to be that we pulled into Singapore. And this good buddy of mine from Peoria, him and I had duty the first day we pulled in, but then we had the next 3 days off, which meant we could go ashore into Singapore and not have to report back to work. And so that's what we did. We stayed at the Singapore Hilton. And when we come back to the ship on a Monday morning, my chief officer said, "You think you can get everything packed and checked off from the ship by tomorrow morning? Because there's a flight on a C-130 leaving here for the Philippines, which you'll be on it, so you can head back to the States and get dental work done." And that was probably the happiest day of my life. I'm going home.
Yeah.
So,
did that mean you're staying home and you're released? You were going home for dental work, but did you know you didn't have to come back?
Oh, no, you were done. You were getting released. Your 4 years was up, and so I got back to Long Beach and reported to the base, and told them I was there to get dental work done and what I needed to get done, and they informed me that the officer that would be doing that type of work had been reassigned to some other base, and they did not have a replacement at that time to do that work, so why don't we just go ahead and discharge you and you can get the work done at home? Well, okay.
That was another happy moment.
End of it. Yeah. There's a process there. You have to check out different places, you know, with the medical and your pay, make sure that they've got you paid up to the last day. And
My other question that I think you already answered is, were you ready to be finished, or would you have gladly stayed longer?
oh no,
And you said I was
when
ready
they said
to go.
you're done, I was done.
Adios.
The only thing maybe I did regret is, of course, after I got out of the 4 years active, I went to inactive duty, which means I don't have to go to meetings or anything. But there was a long time I kind of wished I would have stayed into the active reserves, which would have required me to go to the West Coast and get on a ship for 2 weeks and then come back home.
What made you wish that? Why do you think you wished you would have stayed on an active duty a little longer? I guess what were you like longing for?
Yeah, I just like being on the ship and being out in the ocean, and it's just I don't know. I guess once it gets in your blood, kind of hard to get out. I don't know. It just goes back to the dedication of serving your country, and it just I don't want to use the word I really enjoyed it, because there was times that I wish I had never done it.
Right.
But overall, yes, I'm very proud of my service time.
And when you were back in the States, how did you communicate with your family that you were coming back? How did you set up your pickup, or did they need to travel to you?
It was just a phone call to my parents that, okay, I'm going to be leaving California on a flight to Chicago, and I'll be in Peoria such and such a date and time. Pick me up, and that's all there was to it. My folks was at the airport. Was no parties or nothing. It was I got in the car, we come home, I took 2 weeks vacation and went to work, and I've worked ever since.
So when they picked you up, was it at all an emotional reunion, or was it just kind of a quiet pickup?
It was just a quiet, Mom and Dad, hi, how are you? I'm fine, I'm home, I'm done, we'll get on with life. The more emotional part of it was obviously coming through the airports, because to get the discount on your flights, you had to wear your uniform. And back in those days, there was a lot of people that didn't think we should be in Vietnam, and they treated the servicemen kind of roughly.
Were you prepared for that, or were you? Because now that years have passed, we look back. I think that we look back as
obviously I was not prepared for it, because you had never been confronted like that before, and you just keep moving. You just go to where you need to be going and get out of the situation.
I would just imagine it to be very confusing to be coming home for my first.
Well, you kind of wonder why are they doing this? Because it's not my fault. I didn't say, well, let's go to Vietnam and let's get into a war and let's kill a bunch of people. I mean, they said you are going,
right?
And so you do go. I mean, it's either that or go to jail, and I sure as heck wasn't going to go to jail.
I think the generations that came after your service time have always been confused when we've learned about our presence in Vietnam. I think people my age and younger are confused why the community and the country disrespected the veterans who came home from Vietnam. It's never made sense to me. And as you just said, you were confused as well, because there was a draft.
If anything came out of this as a benefit, would be my generation that went through this said, this will never happen again to any other service person coming home. And I can attest to that, because my boys, when they came home, they had the most wonderful homecoming welcoming that you could give somebody. I mean, the fire trucks, the police, the sirens, the parties. We didn't get that when we come home. We got cussed at, you got spit at,
Yes.
and just treated terrible, really.
Was it a healing or kind of a rewarding feeling when you saw your own boys be honored and treated like you should have been treated?
Well, it was a good feeling knowing that the attitude has changed,
Yeah.
and that they're getting the respect that they deserve.
And I hope that I know that we as a community and a government are more mindful about hopefully the mental health needs and the support that our veterans deserve when they come home. I wondered if veteran support groups were available back then, like any sort of a trauma support group or just some sort of support that would just be sure that you're doing okay emotionally and mentally. Would you have attended? Would you have wanted to go?
Actually, I don't think that the things available back then were well known.
Okay.
You just put up with it, but today there's so many avenues that you can go through to get healing. But I still think there can be a lot more done to help some of these veterans that really need help. And my boys, since being in, and myself, our families, at Christmas time, we pool our money to buy stuff for the homeless veterans in Peoria. And that just, we do not need, they do.
Right.
And that's just one little part that I feel that our family can do to help the veterans. I think the government could do more to help the veterans. You see the tent people in Peoria, and you wonder why can't we do more for these people? They do not have to live in these conditions.
Do you think that a large majority of the tent people are veterans?
I would say
Quite
a good
few.
portion of them probably
Yes.
are.
Would you say that you had any struggles in the years following your life at home after?
I never had any struggles getting back into the life at home, but I do know my boys had struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And that was scary, real scary.
Did you feel comfortable talking with them or asking how they were and checking in with them?
Well, I don't know if I really got down to the specifics, why do you feel this way? What can I do to help you? It basically was just to be there and
Stay
support
close.
them. If they had questions, if they wanted to talk, you were there to do that with them.
Yep.
But eventually, I think they pretty well adjusted to life and probably got away from those bad feelings. Suicide was always one thing that scared me. Not for me. I never ever thought about suicide, but it scared me to think, God, some of the stuff my boys have been through, how much is this really working on their minds?
Right.
It did scare me for quite a while, but those days are gone.
Do you think that they leaned on each other at that time, or do you suspect that they just kind of were on their own island?
No, I know that my twins, that they talked an awful lot back and forth, and they talked a lot to me because they knew that some of the experiences they went through, I probably went through too. Mm-hmm. I mean, as far as getting shot at, they got shot at. What kind of a feeling that was, and the rush. So they felt pretty comfortable talking to me, and not to be disrespectful to Mother, but I know there's a lot of things that went on that Mother didn't know. And
I'm sure.
That's fine. But they felt comfortable talking to me about it.
Which is, you may never know how life-saving or what a blessing that is for just to have one or two people in your family that you can talk to once in a while that can relate to you and understand. I think that was more helpful than you may ever know.
It was more helpful to them than probably what I really realized.
Jim, do you have Any lasting reflections or thoughts about the Vietnam War experience?
Well, I think we lost 57,000 people that maybe we shouldn't have lost. I really don't understand what started the war. I know we could have ended it very quickly, but they elected not to do that. I guess you have to think that we went in there to support the South Vietnamese from communism. And you spent all that time in there, and then you pulled out. And what's it look like today? And then we spend billions and billions of dollars going over and reconstructing their country. So I guess basically it's never over. So, I mean, and that's not just Vietnam. It's probably every war that we've ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
Once the war is over, then you go back in there and you pour millions and billions of dollars into building their country back up. So,
why did you agree to do this interview today? Have you ever participated in anything like this before?
No, this is the first time.
Okay.
And being close friends with the interviewer, it's something that they believe in, and I feel that if I can be a part of it to make you successful, then sure, I'll go ahead and do it.
Thank you. What lessons do you hope that we've learned from your experience for future generations?
Boy, that's a hard question.
Isn't it? I know. As your story is shared, and I hope younger people listen and observe what you have to say, what would you like them to take away from your experience?
I guess I can make it real short. If you love your country, you have to fight for her. And if they ask you to fight, then join.
You also were part of the honor flight, is that true?
Yes.
Would you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Well, one of my sons that was in Afghanistan had put my name on the list, and as he was my sponsor. So we both went together. That was really special.
Which son got to go with you? Which son got to go with you? Jeffrey? Okay.
Part of the stuff that I brought with me today shows a folded flag and a certificate of the Navy Memorial. And that flag was flown. He tried to get the day that we were there, the 23rd of May, but he got the 25th.
Okay.
But it still is special. And what was special about the whole situation is when we came home and so many people lined the airport, and I was not prepared for that. And I wrote an article, and I brought that article with me today about that experience. And what brought me to that time, and as I said into the article, that I finally got the homecoming that I did not receive 51 years ago. And
it had to feel
that meant
sweet.
A lot. Because there was family and friends and even people that, you didn't even know, and all cheering and hollering and clapping and hugging and kissing. Like I said, that was nowhere near what happened when I come home the first time. So that that put my mind at ease.
Yeah.
That now I can sit back and relax and not be bitter.
It's a happy ending.
A happy ending.
Yeah. I know I speak for our Spoon River DAR chapter when I say how honored I am to have spent time with you, to hear your story of service, sacrifice, and resilience after returning home from war. I'm able to raise my family in a safe and stable country with freedoms and luxuries that many countries only dream of having, all due to your sacrifices and years spent protecting our country. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for having me.